Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Heritage. And on today's episode, we are looking at the Albanian ruins of Butrint, which was a former colony of, it sounds like, pretty much everyone in Europe.
Yeah, so Butrint was inhabited since prehistoric times. I believe the official number is as early as 50,000 BCE. And starting at around 800 BCE, everyone starts competing for it. It ends up as a Greek colony, a Roman city, a Christian stronghold, a Byzantine settlement, an Ottoman city, and a Venetian colony.
So, literally, every single person wanted a piece of it.
Yeah, basically. It's it was really a major hotspot in Albania for settlement and governance in the region, and it did so for a very long time until the waters rose and the marsh took it.
And it's pretty much located right near the Aegean Sea, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be pretty close to the coastline, I think. Yeah, it's kind of right on the coast. It's on like almost a little inlet. It's on this like wetlands right off an inlet from the ocean.
Oh, that would explain the marshes, but
Yeah,
very interesting. Obviously, the city was made out of entirely brick and stone, and a lot of it actually remains to this day, including a Venetian tower, but you could still see the built armaments and walls, the layout of most buildings. Like, these are the kinds of ruins that you really get a feel for the human aspect of it. I also just always wonder, like, why do those portions of rocks, why do that rubble specifically stay? Like, are the arches that much stronger than the walls that the arches remain after all these hundreds of hundreds of years, if not thousands?
honestly, it's the art because the arches are concrete. Yeah,
It's a very cool
it's
sight, though. Very beautiful.
yeah, it's very fun. It's very beautiful, and like it has kind of a little bit of everything because this place was inhabited since you know the Stone Age all the way up through World War I.
So the First World War took it out.
Yeah, I believe it's abandoned in the well, maybe not quite there because it gets abandoned, I think, in the late 19th century. So this kind of disappears with like the slow death of the Ottoman Empire. Sees this area abandoned as the marshland becomes harder and harder to inhabit, and the you know governing empire becomes weaker and weaker.
It's very interesting though because you wouldn't believe that it was only abandoned so short time ago, given the ruins. But what a
Yeah,
beautiful location too. I mean, you've got the mountains and hillsides around you, the water.
yeah,
Humans tend to build around water for a reason, for transport, for food, for
yeah,
drinking.
yeah. And basically, this city at its core is what these ruins are here is a little hill along the Vivari Channel, which connects Lake Butrint with the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm.
And as water levels rise in the area, it becomes increasingly impossible to inhabit this hill.
You know, that tends to become a very common occurring thread among human settlement, where humans like to settle in low lying areas near water, and that tends to be where water also likes to go.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, people got pretty ambitious in, I want to say the probably first century or so when the Romans take over. Because when the Romans take over, they decide that they're going to build an aqueduct across the channel and inhabit both sides of the Vivari Channel as Butrint.
Interesting.
And that turns out to not be the greatest idea.
Oh, what happened?
Well, the aqueduct helps bring a lot of water into the settlements, but it also expands Butrint into, instead of just this hilltop, a lot of the lower lying areas on the other bank. So
Hmm.
you've got a lot more people now living in a flood zone.
Yeah, can't be building in the floodplain.
Yep, yep. But yeah, this this site, it has outstanding smoke because in addition to all these Roman elements, prior to that, the Chaonians had a lot of Greek culture get involved for several hundred years, bringing in a lot of Greek city styles and city management, which is why you kind of get this sort of flat rectangles going on.
And the Romans loved doing anything that was Greek, so if there was a Greek
Oh yeah,
settlement, the Romans loved to reoccupy
yeah,
her.
yeah. The Romans love to turn those colonies and just sort of modify them to become much more rigid and grid-like
It's all
than the
Roman to me,
Greeks
you
were.
know?
Yeah, the Greeks were willing to tolerate a degree of adapt to your environment. The Romans weren't.
Again, man's hubris.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, by the fifth century, it's an episcopal center. It becomes a fortress, and it ends up being an early Christian stronghold, uh, which ironically is the point at which it militarizes intensely.
Naturally. Hate when that happens.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. You're fighting the Romans in a holy war for most of this time period. Yeah, you're gonna need some fortifications.
That the fortifications are very interesting though, because they show off in the different stages of their time, basically from the time of them as a Greek colony to the Middle Ages. And obviously you have to have certain defenses to protect yourself, but you can really get an idea of how turbulent times could be depending on the levels and intensity of their fortifications.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I just think it's very interesting too, because the most interesting of the Greek remnants is the theater, which is still there, and then you have the Paleo-Christian era, which is the baptistry, where the Roman monument adapted to the needs of Christianity and has a very beautiful mosaic floor that you can see.
Oh yeah,
It's very interesting, very very cool to see.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of very fun things here. It actually gets abandoned briefly between the fifth and ninth centuries, and the Byzantines move in and rebuild it in the ninth century, which is also, you know, sets us up for some very interesting wars later on.
Uh,
Because as the Byzantine Empire goes down, some rather interesting parties go to take control of it. One of which is the Venetians, which were, you know, doing their whole let's dominate trade and not let the Ottomans have any money uh, stint. And the other one was a little known empire known as the Angevin Empire tries to invade them.
Interesting.
Yep. Now, the Angevin Empire is this really weird thing from a map. Basically, imagine you control England, two-thirds of Wales, Dublin, and half of France. Yeah, this little polity does not last long just from those borders alone. And it's this proto UK thing under like Henry II is when it kicks off, and it's just they try to invade Butrint.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Epirus tries to invade Butrint, which fun fact is this little territory on the mountains right along where Greece and Albania meet. So just all these like forgotten empires and lost countries all tried to lay claim to Butrint.
And that's what's very interesting too, is you have that, and obviously it's a testament to how its environment led to it eventually becoming abandoned, and now it maintains a lot of preservation where you can see how humans interacted with the environment, how they built around, how you can see how it worked with the surrounding landscape. And on that same note, the park is pretty well protected. Butrint National Park was inscribed on the National Heritage List of Protected Monuments in 1948 and has additional laws that were recognized in 2002. And then in 2005, it was declared a national park covering 86 square kilometers, which is pretty large.
Yeah, no, it is huge. I mean, and honestly, this place is important for like almost every era of history. I mean, this thing has been Byzantine, Ottoman, Roman, Greek, prehistoric, and all sorts of other minor and major players in between. This thing's, the thing's got a little bit of everything and a little bit of everyone in it. It's this wonderful cultural crossroads at a place where you wouldn't really think there'd be a crossroad because, it's a hill next to a lake on a marsh that connects to the Mediterranean Sea. This isn't somewhere you think of as like, oh, this is where the trade route was. Nah, this is halfway up the Balkans.
Yeah, but then you look at all the nearby neighbors and you go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Then you realize all the surrounding territory has always belonged to a larger, more aggressive empire.
Uh, and I think that's a great note for us to end up on. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you thought down below. And we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.